Hi folks, Tim here again. Just going over the series we're touching on hand tools. Today, we want to cover a wide assortment of pliers. A lot of variations from the different types of pliers, but we're just going to go over each one of them as quickly as possible, trying to cover what their uses are, likes, dislikes, all that kind of good stuff. So let's just start with a regular pair of pliers. These are ones common to every household. I'm pretty sure most all of them have rust on them, just like these do. Technical name for these is adjustable pliers, and you'll notice they slide back and forth. So you can get a smaller nut or bolt on there, or you can open it up a little and get something wider. So most of these tools that we're going to cover today, I won't say all of them, but most of them are pretty antiquated. These are all old school hand tools. There's a lot more modern day version of tools that are much more efficient that we use nowadays in the way of power tools, but we'll just cover these. Long story short, the best use for these is cleaning catfish. You grab their skin, pull it back. That's about the best use I've found for these nowadays. If you try and use them on a nut and bolt setup like this, more than likely you're gonna strip out the head of the nut or the bolt, and it doesn't end well. So anyway, that's my take on pliers. Let's move over to these pliers. You'll notice they come in a variety of different sizes and shapes. The common words you're going to hear out on the job site is channel locks. Somebody's going to tell you to go grab the channel locks. This is what they're talking about. Channel locks is actually a brand. It's the first brand that came out with these. And the technical name for them is a tongue and groove pliers. So you'll see every one of these pliers has a tongue on it, and these are the different grooves. So you can slide it to whichever groove you want and adjust it to get the size that you want. So you'll see these a lot in the field. Typically people are going to use them to try and bust loose a pipe, something of that nature, which is not really what they were intended for, but you're going to see a lot of it. Once again, you got all different shapes and sizes. They make huge ones, they make small ones. Good knuckle busters. All right, we'll move on to the next section. Once again, we're gonna hear the terminology quite a bit. The slang for these is typically vice grips. And once again, it's because vice grip is a brand name. They were the first ones that come out with it. But the actual technical name for it is a locking plier. So you'll see the way this works. You can adjust the way the jaws are, the depth, however. But let's say I wanted to lock onto this bolt. I could set it right here. I can adjust my settings here and then lock it on. So they're locking pliers. All right. Once again, you got different sizes and shapes. You have needle nose locking pliers. You've got tiny ones. Again, these are all kind of old school tools, but they do have their place in the toolbox. All right, from there we're going to move on to these. Once again, slang name, field name, you're going to hear people tell you go grab the Crescent Wrench. Once again, Crescent was the first one to come out with them, therefore it became the name, a crescent wrench, when actually it's an adjustable wrench. And you can see just by moving this dial back and forth, you can open the jaws up wide or small or however you want. And typically all you got to do is set it on the bolt, tighten it up to whatever setting, and then it's going to tighten it or loosen it. Again, these are not a good option. You're much better off with a good ratchet and socket set. These teeth tend to have a little bit of movement to them, which is very liable to strip out the nut of the bolt. Okay, we talked about these a little bit in one of our previous lessons, but we'll just cover them now since we're dealing with wrenches. Wire strippers. Again, these come in various sizes and shapes. They've all got cutters on them, so I've included them in this lesson. But refer back to my previous lesson if you want to know what all these numbers and what all these symbols mean. Needlenose pliers. Again, various sizes and shapes depending on what you're trying to do. This is pretty much an electrician's tool. They're going to use it to twist and turn wire. This is a bent nose, needle nose set, and a lot of times you'll need these to get into a tight place. They're great for trying to dig in and get to something. So if you've got something that you're trying to pull out of something, or you need to get a wire turned, or whatever you need to do, these are great tools. All right, this is a welder's set of pliers. You've got a place here to cut the wire. Typically they're used for MIG welding. You can see you've got cutters right here to cut your MIG wire. You've got right here, there's an area where the tip on the MIG welder, you can take it on and off because it'll be extremely hot. You don't want to touch that with your hands. Once again, you've got teeth here on these jaws. That's for pulling your wire out of the nozzle. You've also got a larger set here if you're trying to twist something larger like the head off of the nozzle. Just a great set of pliers for welders. All right, these are all OverN Pliers. Typically, anytime you've got a setup where you got maybe a shaft and the shaft has got a nut, it'll have an O-ring on the end it's just like a big circle, but it's not connected all the way. And it'll have two little holes in that O-ring, and it just clamps onto the shaft. Well, when you got to get those little O-rings on and off, you need something like this that will go into those holes, and you can spread it where you can pull it off the shaft. So these are great little tools for putting O-rings on and off of shafts. And you'll notice you got a variety of different heads depending on the size of the O-ring. Some of them are tiny, some of them are larger. This one comes with a whole different set of them. But again, a great little tool for pulling O-rings. All of these are wire cutters. And you see you've got a small pair of snips. You got just a straight set of cutters. The Lineman Pliers, we talked about that in a previous lesson. These are for cutting a much larger gauge of wires. A lot of times you'll see rod busters, which are people that work with steel and setting up rebar and tying it together. They use these Lineman Pliers to twist their wire ties holding the rebar together. You've got regular cutters here. This wire cutter also has a crimp on it, which is for crimping electrical devices. Let's say you want to put a electrical connector that's got where you put both ends of the wire into. You can crimp the piece down in the middle to hold the wire in the connector. It's an unusual set right here. Not too many people have used these, but if you've ever strung a barbed wire fence out on a farm, you've had these. These are fencing pliers. You'll notice they got a lot of different tools on it. This will actually pull the wire, or pull the staple rather, that's holding the wire. So if you've got to take an old barbed wire fence down, you pull that in behind the staple and pull it out. This is for hammering your staples in. You'll be hammering them into the post. You've got a good set of cutters here. If you look right here, that will actually cut a barbed wire fence. Either side, depending on the size of the wire, will let you cut it. It's just a great overall tool if you're a farmer. Last tool we're going to cover, these are some clamps typically, once again, used by welders. Let's say you want to hold a piece down or hold a piece together that you're getting ready to weld with. You'll use these adjustable locking pliers, and they'll clamp around the ends. To give you an example, let's say I had this piece of steel right here. I really like these. These will adjust. You'll notice they adjust automatically. Like if I wanted to clamp straight to there, I can do that. And without making any adjustments, I can turn around and clamp it something way wider and clamp that. It automatically adjusts. So these are an awesome pair of little locking pliers, used for welding, used for just a multitude of purposes, and you don't have to make any adjustments. Unlike these, every time you change the size of what you're dealing with, you're going to have to change the adjustment. well sums up our lesson today on pliers. Hope you got something out of it. Once again, take time this afternoon and go out and catch a catfish.